Alright, let's have it. In this video, I'll show you how you can get the configuration of the kernel you probably have built by yourself, okay, and how to get the internal information of Linux kernel model with some specific tool. Okay, so you can look inside the mysterious kernel binary, right? Generally, a Linux kernel generates a binary called vmlinux. We are going to see inside it as well as the configuration to see the configuration from the binary it generates. It's a reverse way to understand what are the configuration involved to generate the end product of the Linux kernel. Okay, so we'll look through it, two things in this video. Okay, so without further ado, let me get into my Emacs and I'm going to open up a terminal. I'm using something called vterm inside Emacs. Okay, so let me create a directory for the temporary basis to hold the kernel related stuff which I'm going to show you. I may give it a name, explore kernel. Okay, so now the next thing you have to do, copy the kernel from the boot section to, so you see I have two kernel and I'm on both the kernels are built by me, like you probably built your own kernel, right? So you can, instead of doing it on the boot location, you bring it to some of the temporary directory to experiment it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to copy the stuff from there to this particular directory. Okay, so okay, so I did a what I did. Okay, haven't I created the directory? Okay, why all this stuff are coming? Okay, okay, now let me get into it. I'm inside it, so let me get the kernel from the boot and I'm going to copy it in this present directory, okay, where I am. Now you can see I copied that particular kernel from the boot directory to this particular directory which I have created. To see the configuration which built this kernel binary is a kind of reverse process to know what the configuration flags are involved to bring it to this end product of kernel binary. Okay, to find out that this script is already comes along with the Linux kernel source. That is a top level script directory. Under that directory you should find this script. Okay, so this script is called, because I have copied it to my global location so I can access it from anywhere, extract iconfig. This script is called extract iconfig, and it will take the argument as the kernel. Okay, kernel binary. Okay, so I pass the kernel binary to a script called extract iconfig. I think I should give you a better view of it. I have already Linux kernel downloaded. Okay, if you enter the Linux kernel, there is a top level script directory. In that directory the scripts are reside. So I'm going to the full path where my Linux kernel is there, just to give you a clear understanding from where I get it. Why it's messed up, it seems. And then extract iconfig. Okay. And then the name of the kernel you are going to. So it will basically show you the config. Okay. So if I press enter, see, it will show you what are the configuration involved. It will scroll down to the end of. So what you can do, you run it against less, so the screen will halt. There will be a lot of option. Okay, if you really wanted to inspect from the kernel binary to the kernel config, so this is a way you can do so. If I run this, see, it will come at a screen full, right? You can then hover through and check what are the configuration options are active or turned off. Okay, it's a good way to find out how the kernel you are using is built. Okay, this is a nice utility, comes along with the Linux kernel source. Okay, so the next thing is that let's, in the same location there is another script located which basically disassemble the binary kernel. Okay, and we can use other tool to see the inside of the disassembled kernel binary image. Okay, to do that, the script we need, it is located in the same location like the previous script. My Linux kernel source is located here. Your location could be different, where you extract the kernel source tree. My location is here, and in the top level there is a script directory. Okay, and in that directory you have extract VM. This is the script. Okay, now you have to pass the kernel name like this. The name of the script is extract VM Linux. Okay, now what you have to do, you have to make a file, whatever the file. Say for instance, you need to give it a name. like VM Linux explore, right? And it is going to write that. Now I have a video, backlog video, where I discuss about the important tool. I have a video and blog too about the important tools like readdlf, object copy, object dump, obj copy, nm. Okay, these are the important tool, okay, which I covered in my backlog video. You should check it out, okay, as well as I have written about them in my blog too. So in this case we are going to use obj dump, and we use the flag D to disassemble the stuff. VM Linux explore, okay, and if we pass it against less again, otherwise the screen will scroll down quickly to the end. To hold the screen you have to use less or more or whatever paging system. The command here, you need to do obj dump -d to disassemble, and this is where the kernel internal, see in the previous step we have redirected the output of running extract VM Linux against the kernel binary to a file called VM Linux explore. Okay, now I'm trying to show you the internal of the Linux kernel binary. If I press enter, see inside that it's a ELF file, okay, ELF 64 file, and inside that Linux kernel binary there are several sections. As you can see, it's a text section, and how the calling mechanism happen with the register, it is describing it. If you go through that, it would be quite long, because the entire kernel binary is holding the information how to run it and how to manage all this stuff, right? It is full of assembly. You can see how the registers are getting manipulated inside. It will take lots of time to go through all the internals of the VM Linux binary. I mean the Linux kernel binary, what we are seeing at here. But why I'm showing this to you, because it is considered to be a good practice. Whenever you get a chance, you should spam call, sorry about that, you should use this kind of mechanism to look inside the Linux binary. It will help you to learn also how the things work inside, because most of the people, we use the binary, either we get it from somebody else for some distros or somewhere else, or we made ourselves, right? And this is the end product, the Linux kernel binary. To know how it look like inside, how it working with the computer register properly, you need to time look into this to gain more insight of how Linux work. Although it is, I'm not saying it is very intuitive unless you have some sort of very detailed knowledge of assembly or computer instruction set, but it is certainly help. If not one day, it might take few days, it might take few months, it might take few years, and this is perfectly normal. There is no hurry, there is no hurriedness about this. If you learn bit by bit, this is the most rawest form of getting stuff, so it will help. Spends, it is my utmost request to you, if you wanted to do something with Linux, or if you want to understand, please do spend some time by, there are so many invaluable tools already there which will make things easy for you to understand. Some already good tools are written like nm, readelf, obj dump, obj copy, and all this lower level stuff which will enhance the ability or usability to understand the stuff. In this case, we are looking at the Linux kernel binary to help you to understand the internal. So please spend some time. If you are inclined to do that, it will certainly help. And it is certainly not an overnight matter. I can assure you that everyone involved in they do it by time to time. I certainly do. Maybe it takes more time to me because I may not have the brilliance of your head, honestly speaking. So it takes time for me to get through all over it, but I do practice it. That's why I am doing this video, just to make you aware that you could also do the same thing. So get help and get yourself acquainted with the internals of it, which is very, very important and essential to go further and do something more meaningful. Okay, so I hope this short video will give you some sort of heads up or generate some sort of interest to you to do something more, explore. I'm sure you are going to do much more better thing than what I've shown you in this short video, but I hope this is required, so I made it. Okay, so thanks for watching.